Hello and welcome to DC Today. I'm Dale Walters. Sometimes television has a way of capturing moments in time that cause us to pause and reflect on where we are as a culture and as society. For instance, there was the episode of Sammy Davis Jr. kissing Archie Bunker, and Captain Kirk on Star Trek kissing Lieutenant Uhura, the first interracial kiss. Another one of those moments happened just recently. It was an episode of This Is Us. Take a look.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry about what? Specifically, what are you apologizing for?
I'm sorry about what's going on in the country and the protests and
Okay, but you've never apologized before. And this isn't the first black person to be killed on camera.
No, it's not. None of this feels different. It's
Not for me, Kate. It's never been different for me. We grew up in the same house. Things like this have been happening to black people for years, and we've never talked about it. Like, not once. Not once in 40 years.
I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Okay. So, growing up, I just had to keep so many things to myself because I didn't want to make you guys feel bad. I didn't want you to have to worry about saying the wrong thing.
Well, you're right. I mean, we never talked about it as kids. And I think Mom and Dad did the best they could, I guess, but I didn't get involved. I didn't even...
See, I hate this, Kate. I hate seeing you upset. And normally I would hug you, and I would tell you that you did all the right things. I would try to make it all okay for you. But if I did that, Kate, if I made things better for you, then where does that leave me? I'm sorry, but I can't do that. That has been my pattern all my life, and honestly, Kate, it is exhausting.
In a moment, we'll have a conversation with an author of a new book that talks about race, culture, religion, and a lot of other thorny issues. And let me just put it this way. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. But first, the latest. Joining us now is my fellow journalist, my friend, and author of the new book, Crossing the Divide, Jessica Stone. Jessica, thanks for being with us.
One of the things I find interesting is I should set the stage for our audience. We both worked at Fox News Radio, and we did the overnight shift so that you understand that is the shift that they listen to on the West Coast. You don't hear us on the East Coast. But
unless you're a truck driver. We're big with the truck driver.
Unless you're a truck driver, exactly. And we had some of the most heartfelt conversations that you could possibly have. So then when I found out that you put it in pages, you basically said, these are the experiences that I had, and this is what we need to understand about, I guess, the cultural divide. Describe for me what you thought about, what you wrote about, and what you found out about who we really are.
Well, I think there are a number of kinds of cultural divides, right? And a lot of my journalistic experience has been based on my experiences working with literally different international cultures. So I've worked in France, I've worked in Afghanistan, I've worked in China, I've worked in Vietnam, and that has given me a lot of skills and observations, and I've made a lot of mistakes that I think can be instructive to the next generation of students and writers and workers, for that matter, because we talk about how much smaller the world gets with each generation and how much more interconnected we are. You're not going to be able to stay in a homogeneous bubble very easily any longer. Now, that's not a commentary on where social media stands or where you get your information, but the reality is all of our workplaces, even if we're working virtually, are much more diverse in terms of where people are working from and what cultures they represent. So helping myself through just living it, and learning that there are very different cultural vantage points depending on where you were born, how you were raised, what your religion is, what your ethos are, how you view history. And those all go into understanding. And you know, one of the most fundamental lessons I think that's a predicate to, it's certainly the first lesson I share in the book, is that you do need to understand your own culture and ask questions about your own culture in order to understand other people's. So you're always going to relate someone else's culture or vantage point to your own. So understand your own point of view, why you have it, if it's capable of being challenged, how you might change it when you get new information. Be willing to do that. And that's just something that I think I was sort of forced into based on my own childhood and upbringing, not in a bad way, but it turned out to be a gift because it always put me in a vantage point growing up and throughout my journalism career where I truly could be an observer. Yes, I have opinions. Yes, I have values. And I don't believe you have to give those up, actually. I think what's really important is to know that you don't have to give up your personal values and your personal beliefs, as long as you're willing to listen to other people and understand that they don't come from the same place that you do all the time. And that's okay.
I'm curious, do you think we understand who we are as a culture? I know right now that there's an incredible awakening going on in Black America. And I to be honest with you, I can't think of a show that better encapsulated it than This Is Us, where, you know, the Black character raised with two white siblings wakes up one day and all of a sudden realizes he doesn't even know who he is because he hasn't been able to have a real conversation about what it feels like to be Black in America. Do you think Americans really know who we are culturally yet?
Wow. You know, the beautiful thing about our country is we're always evolving, and our culture and our country and our Constitution gives us that ability, right? So we have this mechanism in our Constitution where we can always change and adapt, and that's why we have changed laws on who can vote, on who can get hired for certain jobs, on who you can marry. All of those things have changed in our country in a way that I would argue it's much, much harder to change in other people. That doesn't always mean the culture changes. And I think in many ways, because of the way we consume information right now, we are getting more polarized. People that have a certain set of beliefs that feel disenfranchised from what might be Hollywood or the media culture might say, yeah, you know, those people don't understand me. I feel like they actually hate me. And so I'm not gonna talk to those people anymore. And in your example, you know, while I can't personally identify with the issue of color, I certainly can with ethnicity. I grew up Christian and Jewish and didn't have a lot of close connections to my Jewish heritage until I came to university in upstate New York. And I talk about this in the book too, where, you know, I had a very Jewish last name at school. And it was often assumed that I wanted to marry whoever somebody wanted to set me up with based on what they thought my name meant and what they thought that represented. And it was often thought that I wanted to attend certain religious ceremonies, or I had a certain perspective on the world that came with an assumption about who I was based on my last name. It would be good to, you know, I think just, listen, we can't, do I think that we all have a culture that I think that we have a lot of different cultures, and that is the culture. And we were always going to have to take it upon ourselves to continue to try to understand.
Our conversation with Jessica Stone continues. Stay with us.